Welcome to the Security Cafe podcast.
Hello and welcome indeed. Thank you, Rini. The Security Cafe podcast, the place where cybersecurity meets real-world stories. I'm your host, Menno Van Der Horst, and today we're brewing up two hot topics, cyber and AI. So how can AI not only defend our business, but also become a true business enabler, just like security? Joining me at the table, as always, regular storyteller, seasoned advisor, with more stories than a sock on a Monday morning, and today's special guest, Ahmed. Very welcome,
Achchak.
both of you.
Thank you,
So,
Menno.
Ahmed, can I start with a short introduction on your end?
Of course. So my name is Ahmed. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Kibla AI, a European AI security company, trying precisely to make sure that the AI adoption goes beyond what we have today and that we have autonomous systems that are able to repel attacks. And I feel like this will be part of the conversation for today. So definitely excited to be with you guys. Thanks, Menno, and thanks, Quint, for the invite.
Cool. And Quint, welcome back to the podcast.
No problem, anytime.
So let's start with the news section where we discuss news items. Ahmed, what's up in AI? What's up in security?
Yeah, I think
Give us a short rundown.
on my side, I think this one is relatively frightening in a sense. I think that we've all seen it, and in any case, and that's essentially what happened with the AI attack on Claude. That is essentially demonstrating that AI is already being used by attackers. AI is already being used on the other side of the fence, let's say. And so clearly, this is a wake-up call to all of us on the defensive posture to realize that we indeed need to be able to counter that. We need to be able to counter AI-generated attack that will be faster, harder to detect, and more intricate. And probably the only way we have is to leverage the exact same technologies as the attackers, which is precisely this AI technology that we will, I guess, talk about a lot today, and to make sure that we use it as a way to level the field, to make sure that on the security operation side, we are protected and we're in a position where we can counter that, when we can investigate the threats much faster with a much higher precision that we can do today.
Yeah, I
Cool.
think you're spot on with your introduction there about what we in the news section, what's new. I read some really interesting articles the other day about some successful AI attacks that were fully autonomous in their nature. Yeah, so fully automated attacks are now being seen successfully achieving their goal. Yeah, and I think this is something we've been talking about quite a lot, but we've not seen it in the world a lot yet. We've seen successful exploitations, but not a full attack life cycle doing a successful attack completely autonomous without human intervention. And I think that brings me also to why we asked you to join, because that's exactly what you're trying to solve on the other side, on the defensive side, right? Ahmed.
Yeah, exactly. Let's say we're the exact mirror image of that. We think that one word that you used, Kent, is very important, and that's the autonomous one, because we think that we're past the days where we can still rely on static detection system or static response systems, or even us humans, really. Like, we think that given the amount of noise, given the amount of complexity, and given the speed of these attacks, the only way we have to repel them is to rely on AI as well. By the way, this does not mean that humans are being replaced with AI. It just means that the first line will need to be AI. We need to have AI looking at AI attacks. We need to have AI versus the AI. That's essentially becoming a reality, as you mentioned. And then we humans will be a second line to just make sure that the conclusions that are reached are correct. The remediation plans that the AI is maybe suggesting seem to make sense, and to provide the AI with context, because that's really the hardest bit. We have an advantage as humans, which is that we know the context of the organizations that we work with. AI may lack that. And so we have to redesign security operations, putting AI at the center, but making sure that humans still get to control what's happening, but we will be moving towards more and more autonomy. I completely agree with you, Quint.
So I think when doing that, AI becomes, in essence, uh, an intelligent assistant. So it's basically IA, more or less, right? Because you touch the point of you still need human intervention. I am also a full big believer in that, right? Because you need to have control on the things that but you need to be able to control the outcome still, right?
Yes.
And that's very important. So a lot of people these days, they talk about, oh, AI is going to replace me. I don't think that's the case. I think it will help us go quicker in a lot of areas. Yeah. And definitely if you are in a completely, let's say, a role that can be fully automated, yes, that's probably the case. But in a lot of other cases, I think we'll have the smartest assistants that you'll ever have to be successful in your job. How do you look at against that?
Yeah, I mean, I have to agree with you. I mean, first of all, that's what we see from our customers. Kevlar is today deployed within environments that range from the largest organizations in Europe and in the US. We work with the largest MSSPs already, and that's exactly what we see. The AI is not here to replace humans. I think it will profoundly change the way we do security operations. As you mentioned, it can take care of a lot of the tasks, but there is a key aspect that is often neglected, I feel, which is the trust aspect. You need to be able to understand the decisions of the AI to make sure that it has consistent reasoning, that it's not essentially saying something is malicious and then saying something else, even when faced with the same data. And this trust issue can only be solved with explainable systems, with scalable systems. But that being said, we do have the need for systems that are faster, that are more reactive than the current ones that we have. And so essentially, yeah, I have to completely agree with you on that. And again, there are clearly some tasks where the AI maybe can do them almost fully autonomously. For example, you have a phishing campaign. The AI can probably open the email if it has access to it. You as a customer, for example, should be in a position to control what it does, should be in a position to control what sources it has access to. And for example, we offer that at Kevlar. But essentially, it can open the email if it is allowed to do it. It can sandbox a file, and it can essentially run most of the investigation for you so that when it gets back, you already have all the information at the tip of your hands, and you don't need to do it by yourself, which means that effectively it is drastically increasing the efficiency of your security operations.
And with doing that, you're probably also doing it a lot faster than humans can do it, right?
Yeah, I mean, and that's one of the strongest advantages of AI. It probably beats us at two things. One is speed. It's much easier for it to be faster, to run things in parallel. We as a species are not exactly wired for that. And two, it's probably better at pattern matching. It can detect some things that happened 6 months ago and still keep that somehow in its memory to use it afterwards. By the way, this does not necessarily mean that the AI learns from the data of customers. For example, we can ensure that the data never learns from the data of our customers so that there is no risk of data from customer A going to customer B, for example, but it still can keep memory items that it can reuse afterwards. It's much harder for us to do.
So
how
it's
would you do
basically
such
more
a
or less
thing?
Oh, sorry, yeah, Menno,
No,
go
no,
ahead.
no worries. So how would you, because that is one of the values of getting a security operations center, right? That has, just like you said, that context and that learning from what happened. So actually, I think a few months ago, we had our security operations center running an incident at a particular client, which has very similar peers in different parts of the country. And actually, our security operations center detected and responded to a threat that was part also of a few of those peers. So how would you then still use AI to get that learning in? Is that then something that we specifically put in a human? That you need a tier 2, for instance, if we still talk about tiers, but how would you, because that would be tremendously valuable, right? To get that learning from client A, also in scalable defense type of way to client B, C, D, E, and the whole alphabet.
Yeah, and that's I like the whole alphabet piece. So again, I think that's exactly what we're trying to replicate. The only downside that AI has over humans is we tend to trust humans more than AI. There is a bit of an unfair comparison. We tend to accept mistakes from humans more than we accept that from machines. But that means that a lot of our customers are wary about the case where the AI learns something on customer A and then propagates this information to another one. Because, well, I mean, security sometimes contains like sensible information, contains confidential information. So what we're trying to do essentially is avoiding the case where the AI learns, meaning that there is no change to the weights of the AI models, but still we can create memory items that will be filtered on a per customer basis. What I mean by this is the AI can create, or the humans can create inside Kevlar, memory items saying, for example, in our case, these servers are used for data replication. So each time you see them behave that way, that's consistent with what they were designed for. So you should not worry about it. While these other servers should not have this behavior. So if you see that happening, well, this gives you a hint that maybe something weird is going on. And essentially, we can create memory items that are kept in a database so that the AI can filter these. It can say, okay, I'm working with customer A, and I know that for customer A, here is the context I have, and they will only load it for customer A and not for customer B. And then you're talking about another thing, which is how can we, especially for an MSSP context, make sure that if we see something, we generalize it. That's a different topic. And that's one that we're also working on, making sure that our MSSP customers have multiple tenants, but the AI has the ability to juggle from a tenant to the other while making sure that it never shares sensitive information from a customer to the other.
Yeah, and that is the paradigm of getting it into autonomous AI, right? Specifically for this item, because that is the key value of a security operations center, right? That it had both context but also learnings from other areas. That's
Absolutely.
again why you would get a security operations center outside of your own premises in that sense. So that is, I think, a very nice one to juggle around with the trust and what can you do and what can you give it from A to B, because again that's something that, like you said, you really need to put boundaries on what is even possible to go from one to the other. You really want to get a clear cut on that aspect.
Yeah, we always said on the show, follow the patterns, Neo. Remember that? And I think that's what you have been, kind of doing in a SOC automation, machine learning, combining probably large and small language models, right? I don't want to dive into the motor hood, but can you tell us a little bit about some of the magic that you apply basically in doing that?
Of course. Let's definitely cover some of it. But the key thing is we do not think that LLMs have the power yet to solve the problem by themselves. So essentially, Kevlar is not an LLM company in the sense that we don't just throw the alert at the LLM, prompt it, and hope it will achieve something. The main reason we don't do that is LLMs suffer from lack of stability issues. For example, imagine you are, I don't know, a large organization in Europe or in the US, you're Bank of America, for example. And imagine you are facing, phishing campaign. And so last thing you want is that your AI tool that you just bought and you're proud about actually reaches different conclusions, even when faced with the same alert, with the same set of logs. You definitely want a level of consistency that helps you build trust. Again, I think we'll keep coming back to this trust question because at the core, cybersecurity and cybersecurity automation, even more than the rest, is a trust business. You want to be able to trust the tool, otherwise you're better doing it yourself. And so really, that's the reason why we have shied away from just using an LLM. We do use LLMs, but we mainly use them for semantic analysis. For example, they're very good at reading the body of an email and inferring whether the tone is normal, seeing whether the email by itself is something that is logical in the context of the organization or not. But the core of Kevlar is actually a graph AI that we have built from scratch. And this does not have the problem of inconsistency because we model the investigation as a graph. We discover relationships between the different entities, between the different IP addresses, between the different URL, domain names, file hashes, command lines, whatever entity that we see during the incident. And our purpose is to be in a position at the end to say, okay, clearly, given the evidence that we have collected by pivoting on the SIEM, by pivoting on the EDR, we know for a fact this is dangerous. And so really we're doing a full investigation. We're not just doing enrichment the way a SOAR playbook would do. And then we're getting back to the human analyst with everything we have found. Why we thought it was malicious, why we thought it's not. Again, continuing to build this trust relationship with SOC analysts.
So this really sounds like, because we see a lot of AI in everything, right? AI on top of everything, and
Or
AI built
everything
and
gets an AI stamp.
yeah, and it's just a piece of algorithm or whatever, right? So
Yeah.
this really sounds like you guys thought of something, built it up from scratch for a specific purpose, right? And that is helping security operation centers and helping a company be more secure because it's faster, right? That's I think the core of.
I think the power of we had of course we met last week, right, to brief, and I think one of the core elements of achieving just that is you are not a security person, but you come from the data science world, right? So a security person would come in and treat everything as security, right?
Yeah.
And you've not done that, and that's I think why it's working well and different, right?
Yeah, I think this probably has played a role in it. Indeed, the two founders of Kevlar are machine learning engineers. We don't come from cybersecurity, as you mentioned. But by the way, we don't necessarily think that everything has to be solved with AI. In our product, we have some rule-based extractions sometimes because that works. We just tried to crack the problem in a very pragmatic way. Whenever we thought that LLMs were good, we chose them. Whenever we thought that visual models were better, we brought visual models. Whenever we thought that statistical learning, Bayesian learning was the best solution, we did that. And again, whenever we thought that rule-based determinism was the right solution, we did it as well. So we tried to build a complex system that solves a problem rather than an elegant system that does not solve anything. We really try to be as pragmatic as possible. Our purpose has always been to help defensive teams be more proactive, to help them increase their capability to go through incidents, to reduce the amount of noise that as a consequence reaches SOC analysts at the end. And yeah, we have tried to create something that solves for that without necessarily thinking too much about, is it LLM or is it something else? We took really what fit. And yeah, hope this gives us probably the best accuracy. I think, Menno, you mentioned something that is very important. Speed is indeed one very important aspect. The other one is accuracy itself. Like we have systems that are today more accurate than SOARs and the human events, because again, we have to keep ourselves in the shoes of the analyst. You cannot go through 20 emails a day, 15 EDR alerts, and then hope to keep the same level of attention. And that's precisely why today it's so easy for an attacker to get in. They can just flood you with incidents, and obviously your attention will drop. And yes, of course, that's exactly where the attacker was hiding. That's not a problem that AI suffers from. So it's not only speed, but also consistency and higher accuracy and higher performance.
But I think that's because you guys come from a different background, which is basically the data is the root of everything, right? The better quality the data gives you, the better outcomes it will achieve for you, right? I think that's the foundation of what you guys are doing. At least that's how that's how it sounds to me.
I think you're mostly right. We're living in a more and more digitized world, and obviously data is becoming important. We're generating data every second. And again, this has a lot of impact on cybersecurity. Having this ability to keep the right logs, for example, is something that we have seen yield a tremendous advantage to Kevlar. For example, what I mean by this is, imagine you deploy Kevlar, but you only give it access to a fraction of your logs. It will not be obviously able to run as deep investigations as it could have if you gave it further access. And so, by the way, this is something that the tool has today. It has the ability to say, here, I would like to have access to further data. You remain in control. You can very much say no. You can very much say, for GDPR reasons, I don't want to grant you access to my mailbox. But if you want to do it, if you have the right, if you have the authorizations to do it, it can enable it indeed to run better results and to have higher accuracies. But yes, you're absolutely right, Quint. I mean, the data remains at the core of everything we do. The better, the more, the higher the accuracy at the end.
So they call me the storyteller sometimes, and I got a little anecdote to tell, of course. So we recently did an interview for a newspaper. Menno was there as well, and the guy who was interviewing was the journalist, yeah, and it was from a main newspaper in the Netherlands. He basically said, "I'm using an AI prompt to record our conversation, and it will write the article automatically for it." And we were like, "Wow, that is amazing, right?" So we want to see the result, and of course, the result came 2 weeks later. And it wasn't even close to anything we have discussed with that interview. And that's because the AI, as soon as it started to pick up, oh, these guys are doing cybersecurity conversation, it started to hallucinate, and it created its own little bubble of things that it thought we were talking about, which we weren't.
I agree, and that's something that is relatively new, because this hallucination aspect is one that is much stronger with generative AI than previous waves of machine learning. And again, the main problem with LLMs in a way is that regardless of the question you ask them, they always have an answer to it. And the answer always looks convincing. I mean, if you don't know the story...
Yeah, and it always agrees with you as well, right?
yeah. I mean, this, you can kind of correct it to a certain degree, but the issue is that it will always craft a rather compelling storytelling. And again, if we come back to what I said earlier, imagine you have a tool that is LLM based that runs your security operations. The main problem you have is that regardless of the incident, even if faced with the same one, it will tell you a different investigation story. And if you read each one of them, you will almost always trust it, because on itself, it sounds coherent, and that's a massive issue with generative AI, and that's precisely why we try to leverage LLMs. We are not dismissing them. It's a extremely promising technology, one that we have not fully mastered yet, one that keeps improving over time, but it is not yet the panacea to everything. Let's put it this way. I think we tend to exaggerate a little bit what it can do right now.
Yeah. So if I take the item that in this podcast, Ahmed, it always comes back to basic hygiene, right? You have to have certain things in order before you do big investments into a SOC, even into whatever you need. You first need your basics in order. You need to know which assets do I have, who wants to come after me, etc., etc. So how can AI specifically, or LLMs or whatever, right, in this context, how can that help bring us into a sort of mode where we have the basics in order, and what to do then, right? So is that something you guys have looked at?
Yeah, I mean, we obviously have. The first thing is get your detection right first. Like, what I mean by this is, it's useless to bring AI to your SOC if you don't even have detection systems in place. If you don't even have an EDR, if you don't even have an NDR, maybe sometimes depending on cases, if you don't even have a proper email setup, it's useless to bring AI. I mean, it will not be able to do much. It doesn't have the data. It will probably not even have the alerts.
It's about the quality, right?
It's about the quality, yeah, but even more than that, it's about at least having a detection somewhere. For example, what we see is that our tool is not a detection system on itself. So if you don't have an alert, we will not be able to do anything. We're very operational by nature. So we require an alert. We don't care about where the alert comes from. It can even come from humans. We have a lot of situations of, user-reported emails because you have large organizations, hundreds of thousands of employees. And obviously the CISO has done a good job. So people are trained, but as a consequence, they can, for example, forward an email to Kevlar to investigate it. But again, everything we do only works under the hypothesis that you have some sort of detection somewhere. So if you don't have that, it's useless to bring AI. It will not be able to do anything. You will have a fancy car, but you don't have the driver license, so you cannot do much with it. So I think that indeed the basic first step is to have detection. But then you can drastically speed up your SOC journey by adding AI. You don't need to build playbooks. This is something that we've been doing for quite some time. This is something that the industry as a whole has adopted as the de facto way of solving automation for SOC. But we know it doesn't work that well. We know it doesn't scale. We know it requires a lot of time and effort building the playbook and then maintaining them over time. I think that AI is here to drastically shrink this time to ROI. you can essentially measure drastic increase in the efficiency, and that's what our customers report after a matter of weeks. You just deploy the AI, and from the get-go, it is pre-trained. It knows how to use the sources it has access to, and then you can already start seeing results. And then, as we discussed earlier, you can start embedding context, which will make it refine its understanding and behave more and more as the analyst you would have liked to have. But again, the analyst would be looking at what the AI is doing. And so everyone is winning in a sense. We humans deal with less noise. The AI takes that for us, but still comes to us with the results it finds.
Yeah, I think what Menno is trying to allude to is basically it goes beyond the SOC itself, right? It's about basic hygiene. So a lot of people, they get scared about, oh, there's now fully automated ransomware attacks that can deploy themselves. Ah, scary, I need to do something about that. Well, Menno is basically coming from, but if you have your basic hygiene in place, the AI will probably not be very successful in finding stuff, right? Because you will have your vulnerabilities hopefully under control. You will have some preventive measures like protection in place in order to stop things as you see them come in and things. So I think that is also the circle, right? A lot of people, they type the AI, it's like the buzzword of the century, right?
It definitely
And
is.
everyone is like, oh, the bad guys are using it as well. Yeah, that's scary. But maybe you need to make sure that your basics are still under control. And as you said as well, especially in the SOC, it doesn't make sense if you don't have all the bells and the whistles, to start like, I'm going to buy something because I love to buy something. A lot of customers do, they buy everything. And then they come back and I'm still being breached. How is that possible?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. A quick anecdote on what you mentioned. Indeed, AI is probably, as you said, the buzzword of the century. It's so much the case that we actually thought about removing the word AI from the name of the company. We thought about rebranding ourselves and just naming it Kevlar. Because we're like, everyone is just adding the word. It's starting to harm you almost because people go, okay, yet another AI tool. The issue is we are pure AI. We almost only do that, but whatever. And to come back to your question, again, I'm 100% aligned. What we see as still the most effective or one of the most effective attack vectors is emails. People continue to fall for phishing. So that's pure basic stuff, but people fall for it. And the issue we have today is precisely because of the LLMs, it's becoming much, much easier to craft very compelling messages and to do that at scale. You don't need humans to take care of it. You can have an AI that does it and that you connect it to social engineering techniques, you gather data, you feed it to it, and it will draft a set of emails that look very convincing to even trained employees.
Yeah. No, I agree, right? I would say there's never a time that I would not press on a tricky email, but you see sometimes some emails that even I'm doing security for 28 years. I'm thinking like, no, that's wrong, right? But I'm still thinking like, no, it could be. That's
happens
not bad,
to me as
right?
well.
Yeah.
By the way, today we have essentially built a tool internally where essentially we can forward these emails because we do ourselves. We're a tiny French 50 people company, and we still do receive phishing emails ourselves. And so now we have built a capability in the tool that's purely internal, only for us, where we can essentially forward the emails to Kevlar to investigate itself. And guess what? We do have a lot of employees that do that because these emails are convincing enough that they want to verify that with the tool, that they cannot by themselves say, you know what, I will just dismiss it.
Yeah, and I think that's really key on getting AI in security, and again, like you've just said, actually security back in AI, right? So it checks itself or something. I think it's really important to stress the fact, indeed, where we started in trust. It's about speed. It's about accuracy. It's also about agility of the security operations center as a whole, right? So being able to respond to the proper things with the proper triage and the proper focus of an analyst, because those guys are scarce, right? Hard to get, expensive guys that really know their stuff. So that is something to help them, to get them having that intelligent assistant like Quint helped us in the beginning with, right? So
Hey guys, I'm looking at time flies when you're having fun. Sorry to
no,
take it
really
that
good.
harsh, but
It
we
definitely
said
does.
we would. I think we need to start with some closing comments and things. So Menno,
Get to
over to you
the
for that.
Yeah, indeed, get to the final bell. So as I said, that is extremely important in where we are, and that was the final bell, Ahmed, and that means that we always go into, what have you watched or read? I know you're quite often traveling to clients and stuff. So what do you advise our listeners to listen to watch, or to read in their time?
Mm. Yeah, I mean, if you allow me with that, to listen to we have a podcast ourselves
Of
about
course.
security operations with AI.
I
So
noticed that.
yeah, I would highly recommend that. I happen to be the host, so it's very pleasing to be invited to a podcast. Now I switch essentially in place with you guys. But it's called Super Sock Podcast, and I think we try to have interesting folks that join us to have an open discussion about how AI is changing the future of security, how AI can have impact on a large scale on the SOC, on honestly the societies and organizations by themselves, because this is something that is becoming very important for our daily lives as a society, and AI can help us hopefully secure that. But apart from that, I think there is a book that I would definitely recommend. It's one that I read every now and then. It's a book from a guy called Dan Ariely, and the book I think is called Predictably Irrational. In French, it's called
Okay.
C'est vraiment moi qui décide. But whatever. It's a very tiny book, by the way, but it's extremely rich. It's very accessible, and essentially it talks about how marketing and how humans can be influenced with decision making. And the reason I think it's a great one is, as a founder or as a decision maker as a whole, and we all are. We have to deal with pressure. We have to deal with limited information. It's very interesting to see with concrete example. And the book is full of concrete examples of how your rationality is actually much more limited than you think. And again, I cannot recommend it more. It's a very, very interesting book. It fits in the behavior economics wave. It's something that I really enjoy. And yeah, I think that it's interesting, definitely.
Cool. Thank you very much. We'll definitely put both, because I've listened to to your podcast, and it's really nice, Ahmed. So
Thank you,
we
Menno.
will definitely put both in our show notes. Thank you for that. Quint, any thing to read or watch from your end?
No, not really this time. I've not had the greatest time to watch or see new things, but I will definitely find something over Christmas. We'll do another episode this year, right? And then I'll definitely keep to the promise to have something nice to look over the holidays.
Cool.
Right.
Thank you very much. So, final remark, guys. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you very much for your insights. I hope to have you on the next episode somewhere. And have a great evening.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.